After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Here's the key point. Sumahatma Sudurlabhaha. Such a great soul is very rare. And so in this particular verse, we're getting an understanding of who Srila Prabhupada is. Because there are many gurus that exist in this world. Guru means teacher. And here, Prabhupada is recognized by his disciples as a pure devotee of Krishna. Oftentimes you see Prabhupada in his quarters. And he always has his bead bag with him. Very interesting. Prabhupada has his bead bag with him. Because whatever great men do, common men will follow. Whatever standards they set by exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. So many so-called leaders, gurus, they do not practice what they preach. This is something that is hypocritical. In other words, they're telling people, you chant your rounds, you worship Jesus, you perform all the scriptural injunctions that are provided to you, but I'm not going to. I'm going to tell you what to do, but I'm not going to do it myself. This is the one amazing part of Srila Prabhupada's life with us was he did everything by example. He was a true sannyasi, totally renounced from everything material. I'll give you an example. When Prabhupada came to Toronto, we had purchased the temple, a very, very prominent building in Canada. It's on Avenue Road coming down from Highway 401. And Vinkat, you may not know this, they call it the gateway to Toronto. The gateway to Toronto. In other words, prior to Yonge Street, which is a main street in Toronto, there's Avenue Road. Now, Avenue Road, it was the main highway coming into the city from 401. So there are two churches situated at DuPont and Avenue Road. And they are the two towers that enter into the city. When you come down through the city to get to the downtown area, you pass through these two towers. And then you come to the Parliament buildings, which is only 2 kilometers from the temple. We had purchased the building specifically because we wanted to put Krishna in the face of the government leaders. We wanted them to see how Krishna is in charge of our country, not them. Not them that are taking us to nuclear war at any moment. That's what's going on here with these leaders. So Prabhupada was there. It was an amazing accomplishment for us as a group to be able to get this building for Krishna. Prabhupada sent me a letter. He said, it is a topmost triumph that you've got this building for Krishna. Now use it to preach Krishna consciousness to the souls here in Canada. Now, when Prabhupada was with me, or with us, I mean, I was blessed to be able to have many darshans with him. He was very humble extremely humble. He was not demanding. We had made a big mistake. When he first came, we didn't know how to decorate his room. There's a tower to the side of the building with the quarters for the priest. So we had set up the office for him, and we had a tall desk. And we had a chair, like an executive chair. We thought, okay, we'll make an executive chair, and we'll have a tall desk like that. So Prabhupada came. He arrived in Toronto, glorious. It was so glorious at the airport. And then we came to this temple. He came in. I've got a picture of him. First time looking at the altar. We had an altar that wasn't finished, but it was still the frame had been built, but we hadn't done the decorations. But he came. It's such a beautiful picture. He was so excited and so pleased. I can understand why. Because here he had come previously in 65, and all of a sudden in 1975, we had purchased this prominent building in downtown Toronto, a very, very significant thing. And Prabhupada, like he had said, it is a topmost triumph for Krishna that you've achieved this success. Topmost triumph. So, it is interesting to note that when Prabhupada was with us, did he ask, who has title to this building? Did he ask once? No. Was he interested in being on title in the building? No. Was he interested in money? No. Was he interested in anything mundane related to this? Not one thing. He came as a gentleman, as a pure devotee. Bahunam janmanante ante, samahatma sudurlabha, a great soul. Not interested in anything except the benefit of his devotees in spreading Krishna consciousness. When Prabhupada came in 1975 to Toronto, we lived before we had got the building. He came to visit us. We also went and saw the building at that time. He wanted us to get the building. He offered to give $300,000 to the church people from his own money to buy the temple for us. And they turned it down. They said, we'd rather burn the building down than sell it to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. They'd rather burn it. Ridiculous. Pathetic. Anyway, there's a great story about that, how we tricked the Christians, and eventually we got the building. This was Krishna's plan. But Prabhupada, when he was there on Gerrard Street, he stayed. We were going to arrange, we only had one building there, a 187 Gerrard Street. And there were 55 devotees living in the house. One house. We had 16 brahmacharis on the third floor. Everybody used to line their sleeping bags up one after one. If there was no room. And then we would also, in the morning, all we had was a bathtub. So eventually we got to the point everyone would come in with their kalpans, leave them on, and then one devotee would shower them. Because there was only like 2-3 minutes. You could take a shower so that everybody could be at Mangal Arti at 4:15. This was the thing. It was like a machine. But everybody was happy to spread Krishna consciousness. In Prabhupada's association, we were going to arrange for Prabhupada to stay at the Royal York Hotel. Which is the big hotel. We thought, we'll get Prabhupada at the Royal York Hotel. We also arranged a car through Wayne Fisher, I think his name was. He had a Lincoln Continental. So I asked him, here, please lend us your car so we can pick Prabhupada up at the airport. We had no vehicle except vans for Sankirtan. So Prabhupada came to Pembroke Street. Prabhupada came to Gerrard Street, I should say. And we told him, Prabhupada, we want to book you at the Royal York Hotel, which is at the time was the main hotel in Toronto. And you know what Prabhupada's response was, everyone? No, I want to stay with all of you. So he stayed on Pembroke Street, which is around the corner, in a bachelor apartment of one of the Grihastas. Now, for many of you, you don't know what Pembroke Street was like. It was where all the prostitutes and all the drunkards were. We lived in a rough part of the city called Cabbagetown. Cabbagetown. And it was because the park across the street was a place where the homeless and the drunkards and the drug addicts stayed. Where did Prabhupada want to stay? He stayed with us. He stayed on Pembroke Street. He stayed in this apartment. He did not want to be away from the devotees. He wasn't interested in staying at the Royal York Hotel. That is practical experience. If you see Prabhupada's example, so Mahatma Sudurlabaha, he had no interest in any kind of fancy residence for himself. He was only interested in one thing, and he said that to us. I want to be with the devotees. He was a humble servant. Trinadapi Sunichena Tororapi Sahishnuna. He exemplified the principles of sannyas that Lord Chaitanya demonstrated when he appeared here practically in the 15th century. Prabhupada was not interested in the title. Who owned the temple on Avenue Road, even though it's worth over $30 million now? Who cared? He did not care about anything. The only thing he cared about was spreading the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya. Mahatma Sudurlabaha. This is the real meaning of Mahatma, not Mahatma Gandhi, who wasn't sure about who he was or why he was here in the world except for political reasons. This is nonsense. Prabhupada would talk about that. He left Mahatma Gandhi's mission in his early years and took up the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya, which is true welfare work, to get people out of the confusion that they're this body of blood, pus, stool, and urine that will live for 50 or 60 years and then it's dead. Or it could be blown up by a nuclear bomb. Nowadays, they're fighting. They're bringing all this fighting to the world. These politicians, these madmen. And at any moment, a nuclear war could take place like we've discussed in the past. So it is very important for us to understand that Prabhupada set the example for us. We are the Prabhupada Disciples Association. Why? Because we follow Srila Prabhupada as the perfect example of a devotee that surrendered to Krishna and is chanting Hare Krishna all the time. His schedule was so rigid, Prabhus. It's extraordinary. I feel so fallen because I know how great Prabhupada was and how fallen I am. Prabhupada had told me that on a walk on the beaches. You might have heard the story. I asked Prabhupada, I was afraid to ask Prabhupada a question. I was very afraid because there's two sides to the sword here. If you ask a good question, then you might get a positive reaction. But if you asked a stupid question, you could have got chastised, which was also a blessing for us. So at the time, it was in 1976, we went for a walk on the beaches, and I asked Prabhupada this question. I stopped, and I said, Prabhupada, because Tamal Krishna had introduced a point that if you were a brahmachari and you got married, it was considered to be a fall down. This bogus philosophy, that he was propagating. So I asked Prabhupada that question. I said, Srila Prabhupada, If you're a single man and you decide you want to get married, is that considered to be a fall down? Prabhupada looked at me. He said, where is the question of fall down when you're already fallen? Where is the question of fall down when you're already fallen? We're in the material world here, everyone. We're in a fallen condition. The main thing is to get out of this material world by following in the footsteps. This is very important point, Yashoda Prabhu. It's following in the footsteps of the pure devotee, not changing everything based on your own mental speculation, which is something that we've seen go on since Prabhupada's departure. And we hear these people, our God brothers, so many of them, they're all off on their own mental speculation to do this or do that, their particular way, instead of following in the footsteps of the Mahatma, the great soul. That is Srila Prabhupada. This is very rare, everyone. For us to get the association of a pure devotee, to set up this Prabhupada Disciples Association, to have the opportunity to be together every week and take advantage of this opportunity is very, very rare. So let us understand that Prabhupada is setting the highest example. He is the Mahatma that we're speaking about. He is the great soul. And if you can follow in his footsteps, again, I'm referring to when I got initiated in my own pastimes with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada told me to my face, you are not the chief engineer, but you are the servant of the servant of the servant of the chief engineer. If you can achieve that, then you'll become great. This is our position, every person here. Follow in the footsteps of the pure devotee, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Study his life, understand his greatness, and try to follow in his footsteps. Exactly the way he walked, we walk, and this way, this mission will carry on without adulteration. Yashodanandana Prabhu, please comment.